Hey, okay, everybody. Welcome back to Body Talk. This is your host, Troy Napster, with the Advanced Spine Joint and Wellness Center in Medina. You can check us out online, www.thinagainohio.com, or you can call us directly, 330-242-7669. I am back with Michael Moore. Michael, welcome back once again.
It's great to be here. I'm glad we only got into our first three pieces of this weight loss program. And that's why I'm glad you're here to get at least 4 and 5 today. We have to.
We'll do our best.
Okay. Why don't you, the fourth piece of this was symptoms.
Right.
And why I'm excited about this is because the three pieces we talked about, for some reason, I think this should be out of order, because symptoms is really what you need to solve, right? You
Sure.
want to address those problems first.
Well, yeah, in symptoms, and I know some of us you can see us on Facebook Live as we're doing this, but, we've got a report here that is on our website that you can access for free. But the fourth discovery is about symptoms, and a lot of folks don't realize that some of the symptoms they're having are also related to their weight problem.
When you say that, and again, we're going to get more into this, but one of the big things we talked about in weeks past was inflammation.
Sure.
And it all comes back to gut health, right? That's the big key to this. If you have inflammation, it is what you're ingesting, right? It's not a problem that starts inside. It is what you're putting in to kind of fuel your system.
Sure. Yeah. All of this goes back to, again, when we look at, problems with our bodies and what breaks down overall across the board with pain, autoimmune disorders like rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, weight gain, GI issues, all of this goes back to inflammation. And again, where that comes from is what are we putting inside our bodies?
Right. I think some of the things that you described, but there are things as mental confusion, mood swings, anxiety, depression, overweight, fatigue. These are all things that I'm not going to say purposely causing, but what you're eating is giving you this issue because your gut health is telling you something's wrong.
Absolutely.
Along that line.
Yeah, a lot of folks are running around with these issues. And just take, for instance, depression. How many people would think that depression and weight are somehow related? And they certainly are. And, most people go, well, I'm having problems with mood swings and depression. They go see maybe their family doctor and they get put on a depression medicine. And quite frankly, a lot of folks aren't feeling better in terms of their mood with that medicine. And one of the side effects of that medicine,
it's all you're doing is masking the problem.
well, one of the biggest side effects to all of those medicines, weight gain.
Well, that's true.
So we see folks tend to complicate the issue along with the medicine.
Okay, so when you have somebody come in that is on multiple medications, your recommendation I'm not saying every single case, but isn't there something to be said for getting off that medication to immediately start to take some weight off?
Sure. And, medicines, again, things that we look at closely with everybody. But, as we get folks feeling better, they're able to get back to their family doctors and then start to wean off of those things. So we see it time and time again. And I'd like to bring a guest in a few weeks, one of our patients. He's on our Facebook page today, actually. And his life has completely changed in terms of depression, anxieties, withdrawal, fatigue, just totally changed completely. So we'll be bringing Mike on very soon.
When somebody like Mike comes into you and is the issue always weight loss? Or is it more, I see a lot more people that come into the clinics in Columbus or your clinic that they seem to there's a weight on them mentally.
Sure.
And they can't get past that block of, my life isn't the way I want it. And a lot of that causes that stress eating or overeating because I need that immediate kind of win. I need to feel better, right? Like for now. But then they regret that decision down the line, which leads to bulimia or eating disorders. Instead of addressing the real root issue of losing weight and doing it the right way, medically supervised.
Sure, yeah. And, with Mike, along with a lot of other people, he was just stuck with life in general. Chronic pain led to being overweight. The more he gained, the less he was able to move, the more weight he was carrying along, the more his joints hurt. So it really began to snowball. And we see lots of folks out there. There's probably thousands of folks that'll be out there listening to this with this same issue where it compounds. They get into chronic pain. The chronic pain leads to some withdrawal, some depression. They don't want to be as active. We begin to develop even worse eating habits, and then that snowball gets pushed down the hill.
But that's key, right? Your eating habits have to change regardless if you're doing this weight loss plan or not. it all comes down to the basics, and you learn that from your parents. So if you're a parent now, your kids are learning from you. If you have poor eating habits, you're passing that down.
Sure, and you can see that generationally. If you look at some families and just one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, you can see those habits and those traits passed along very, very, very easily. And how are we doing with our overall health and nutrition? It's very likely we're going to pass those things on to our kids. And that's quite frankly what we're seeing more nowadays when we see the obesity rate in kids go up now to 40% of our kids under the age of 18 are now classified as obese. That's a big problem.
Well, and I think we talked about it in previous shows. That number, the level of diabetes is supposed to get to 50% because of all the sugars and what's wrong with wheat. There's an interesting documentary about that I've meant to tell you about. It said, "What's with wheat?" And it talked about what you were discussing. We don't get the same wheat or breads that we would have gotten 30, 40 years ago because it's been, how do I want to say it? Synthetic things have been put into it.
Sure.
So your body doesn't know how to process it, right? So it's causing more gluten intolerant issues because really it's not wheat anymore. It's wheat with something, you know? So do you see a lot of families come in and they want to bring their kids in too?
Absolutely. And it's one of the things we talk about a lot is it doesn't really matter who the first person that we meet is, whether it's mom or dad, sometimes it's both at the same time looking to make the life change, is that if it's the individual, we always talk about the family because how hard would it be, you know, for instance, Michael, if you've got a wife and 4 kids to just change your lifestyle and leave everybody else just kind of out there hanging. It never works that way. And maybe the other folks aren't interested, but the majority of the time we're trying to change the health of the family, not just the individual.
How hard is it to get a family to get off of dairy?
Actually, not very hard. Once they start to see the changes in themselves personally, once they have made that switch, it becomes very easy. I know in my house, initially there was gnashing of teeth.
I had the same thing because as we've discussed, I had a gluten intolerance issue, which I didn't know about until I was 37 years old. And then changing to soy, and then after talking to you, changing to almond. Just getting off of those, it was, my daughter's 10, and she said, I don't like it. I don't like the way it tastes.
Right.
Well, if you don't tell them what it is and you just kind of like, here's what it is.
It becomes normal.
It becomes habit.
Right.
But she was carrying on the same issue I had. Didn't know she had a gluten intolerance. So as time goes on, you see her mood change and she's not uncomfortable sitting there watching TV. That's the worst thing that you can see is like your kid is uncomfortable.
Sure. And that ties right back into symptoms. What was that discomfort? And where was it coming from? A lot of these things just went unidentified. You know, growing up as a kid, I can remember sitting in first grade with these cramps all the time.
Right.
And it was most likely probably some type of lactose or milk intolerance because we used to drink a lot of it. And just looking back on that experience, I just remember being miserable as a kid sitting in first grade with all these cramps going, what in the world is going on? But it wasn't something that was really looked at too well. Go to the family doctor and say, yeah, he's probably anxious about being in first grade. Well, I really wasn't, you know, looking back on it. My stomach just hurt. I didn't know why.
Well, I think that the other thing about it is when we're talking about milk in general, that campaign that got milk, I remember seeing that in a Mark McGuire or somebody, an athlete that you really liked, and you thought, oh, milk is good for you. It builds muscle. That was the thing. It builds muscle, strong, healthy bones.
Right.
But you don't realize what type of milk you're getting now.
Well, and you can always look and go, hey, listen, there's some nutritional value to milk. Sure, can we get those things in other places? You betcha. But milk is so pro-inflammatory to the majority of people, and there's so many hidden sugars in it. And milk, again, is designed, I think we talked about this on show number 2.
We did.
Designed to make basically a baby cow a very healthy, larger cow.
To put on a lot of weight so that there's more of that cow to go around when it's processed into something we can eat.
Sure, absolutely. And if that's what it's doing to a small animal, imagine what it does to us, and it certainly does. It puts a lot of weight on.
When you say that the people are in pain, are you seeing a lot of, is it chronic pain or more like digestive pain that they're coming in for? Because there are different versions of it, but again, it's still, if they're eating something that's causing them an issue, you have allergy tests for this kind of thing, so you could tell them, right?
Sure. And that's a great question. When it comes to this fourth weight loss discovery, just symptoms. People come in with very, very vague symptoms on what may be bothering them, and then pain can be very specific, can be very acute, or it could be chronic. So, hey, I fell and twisted my ankle, or it could be they're in chronic pain. So the symptoms oftentimes vary, but food allergy testing, absolutely. It's so important. We see a lot of folks. Just spoke with a young lady yesterday. She has lupus, and she came in with a lupus flare in her knee. She's a deer hunter sitting up in her tree stand. She was climbing up in her tree stand and came down. Before she knew it, her whole knee had swollen up. She has lupus. She's on medicines, but she has never, ever heard about how her foods may be influencing that inflammation and pain in her knee that's been now acutely injured, but she always is in chronic pain from her lupus. So we had a great talk about just these things in general, and she is full of, if you read through those symptoms, there's a lot of them,
right,
full of those symptoms. So excited for her.
Do you also see I see a lot of blood pressure medications, like how to handle your blood pressure.
Yeah.
And one of the things a family doctor will tell you, like I had an issue where I had a stressful job and he'd say, you just need a different job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not anything about there was no science to it. It's just like, see if there's something else you can do to relax that. A lot of it had to do with dairy,
mm-hmm.
bread. There was no let's take a test, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when people are coming to you about weight loss, do you ask them about their job? Like, what is their lifestyle like?
Oh, sure. Their life is extremely important, and stress is extremely important too, because if you look at number 5, when we talk about these weight loss discoveries, that's hormones. And how do hormones impact our ability to lose weight, and or on the opposite side, how are hormones helping us and making us gain weight? And stress is a big one. Sleep is important. Stress is important. So the entire lifestyle is important. So getting to know the person as a whole, what are they up to and how is this impacting them is significant. It's one of the first things we do as we meet with a new patient is when it comes to weight loss is we do an analysis to look at the thyroid and adrenal glands and make sure they're okay, because these are glands that work harder when we're under stress, and they can either help us gain weight or lose weight. And I know there's lots of folks with thyroid issues out there listening to this.
Well, what's interesting about it is to look at somebody's, you say you can't tell if someone's healthy on the outside.
Right.
It's all on the inside.
Right.
They can look great on the outside, but their body could be a wreck internally. The people that are coming to you are looking at it and saying, my external is what I want to change. But really, you have to deal with the inside first, the gut, mentally, and deal with that, right? I mean, you've had experience yourself with...
Sure.
With both the issue with what you were taking Nexium for and taking all that, I'm trying to think what's the term for it.
Yeah, reflux.
Acid reflux. Mm-hmm. You had that issue, which was causing stress for you.
Right.
And it was causing stress every time you're thinking about eating, and then you ate and you suffered, right?
Sure.
That's adding stress you don't need.
Right. And the biggest added stress was I couldn't sleep. So what had happened was it was bothering me. There was so much pain at night while I was sleeping, I couldn't sleep. So guess what's got to work harder during the day to help me stay awake and focused? The thyroid and adrenal glands, because those glands are now working harder to keep this machine running.
And you're going to run into another meal. So eventually you're going to suffer again. So that chain just keeps rolling.
Absolutely. Yep. It begins to snowball. And that's what we see with a lot of folks. Hey, I'm tired. And we look at these symptoms, all of them that they have. It's almost like a check engine light in a car. And I love this analogy because, I mean, if you think about it, we've got Doug sitting here behind us. I mean, how many of us, I don't know about you, and I don't know about you, Doug, but if I get in my car in the morning and I start it up and the check engine light comes on, I'm like, God, nuts.
Right.
What's going on here? So I'm going to think about it a little bit, and I'm like, well, maybe you drive it the first time, park it, and just turn it off, go inside.
Hopefully
hope
the
next
light will
time
go off.
it goes off, right? You're like, maybe that'll just go away, and then you come out and it's on again, and you're like, ah, boy. And then here you go, a couple days in a row, it's still on. How many of us won't take our car in to get it checked? Most of us will, because we know we've got a problem. Eventually. Yeah. Most of us aren't procrastinators when it comes to our cars. We're like, oh boy, I really need that machine. But our body's the same way. And we look at symptoms as a check engine light. If you're tired, there's probably a reason. And most folks will adapt and say, well, it's because I'm older.
Right. Or the weight thing is, I'm big bone. My whole family is big bone.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's easy to just adapt to it, or just kind of minimize the issue. So I have this problem, but it's because I'm 43. I have this pain. It's because I'm getting older. I should live with it. And we actually have a lot of patients that come in who have had their primary care physician tell them that. 88-year-old guy, I'd love to bring him on, who couldn't even walk the other day, literally a week ago, couldn't even walk. And his family doctor told him, you're 88. Well, we've got him walking again.
Right.
So, we don't have to live with these things. And that's not always the answer, is that I'm getting older. That's a check engine light saying, better look at something.
You had talked about fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
When you're talking about that, I think people are looking at it as a bacteria, and you have to get rid of bacteria in the body. I think the biggest misconception is there are bacteria that are good for your system, right?
Yeah, and fibromyalgia, it's such a complicated disorder, and we see folks just suffer with this thing for years and years and years. And you mentioned bacteria. Fibromyalgia is just it's classified now as an autoimmune disorder. Right. So they typically go to a rheumatologist now, and they get on some of the same medicines that you would if you had rheumatoid arthritis or some of these other things. But we look at fibromyalgia as coming right back to the gut. And when you mention bacteria, there's got to be this balance in our gut of bacteria and yeast called Candida. Mm-hmm. And most folks do not have balance in their GI systems with those things. And the reason they're so important is they help break down foods into particles that we can absorb. And if we don't have the right types of bacteria, we can't do it. And that's why I think you saw over the past 5 to 10 years this big craze over probiotics. Everybody running out and getting probiotics, because we realize that with the foods we're eating, dairy, and some of our meats are full of antibiotics, and some of the things that we get from our doctor all the time, every time we get a sniffle, we get an antibiotic. Those things actually can't choose all of the bacteria they're going to kill. You take it, it's going to kill bacteria in your entire body, and where they also kill things is in our stomach.
But it'll also lead to fatigue for them, right? Because I'm getting rid of, my body now has to work harder because I got rid of good and bad bacteria, right? So it's gotta work even harder to do the normal function.
Sure, we're not. We no longer have the bacteria that we need that are actually helpful to us in our small intestine to help break down those foods. So what we see is actually an overgrowth of some type of yeast called Candida, and that's a huge issue we see with gut health. Is just an overgrowth of Candida.
Let's take a break here because we've been going 17 minutes straight, but we will be right back with Body Talk.
When distracted drivers cause injuries or death, they hide behind their insurance companies and lawyers. Who's there to protect you? Get Scott Smith. Get justice. Call 888-311-LAWS or sestriallaw.com. Get Scott Smith. Get justice.
The body and confidence you've always desired is within your grasp with Advanced Spine, Joint, and Wellness. Advanced Spine, Joint, and Wellness optimizes your health while shedding excess pounds. Following the Club Reduce weight loss program creates the body you desire based on a complete nutritional analysis and medical supervision. Get real guaranteed fast results that last. Advanced Spine, Joint, and Wellness provides a personal and detailed program to change your life. Call 1-833-2-GET-THIN or visit thinagainohio.com to speak to your weight loss consultant today.
Hi, this is Marty Reed, and I'm the owner of Frog Hauling. We are Columbus's only green residential mini dumpster service. If you want to clean your garage, you want to clean your basement, or maybe clean your yard, give Frog Hauling a call, 258-3764. At Frog Haul, we also service contractors, and if only the best product will do for your customer, give Frog Hauling a call. Visit us at froghauling.com or call us at 614-258-3764.
Hi, I'm Todd Schmidt, president of Renovations Unlimited. At Renovations Unlimited, we provide the highest quality in home remodeling services in and around Columbus. Our commitment is to exceed quality professional craftsmanship with the absolute best remodeling experience. At Renovations Unlimited, we don't just do kitchen and bathroom remodeling. Design build projects are the cornerstone of our business. Every day, we create dream home experience with everything we do. See for yourself. The home of your dreams awaits you at renovationsunlimited.com.
Mark, it's our 40th year at Greenscapes. How do we get the word out about the premier design-build landscapes that Greenscapes creates?
The radio?
Radio? How can people see our premier landscapes that you design on radio?
Our 24-hour showroom is available at greenscapes.net, where people can see what we create every day.
Greenscapes.net. Hey, great idea, Mark.
Greenscapes.net displays all of our projects and also gives you timely garden tips.
Mark, as Central Ohio's premier landscape company, I think Greenscapes is going to have a fabulous 40th year.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Body Talk. Troy Nafsker here, your host with the Advanced Spine, Joint, and Wellness Center in Medina. You can check us out at www.thinagainohio.com. And Michael and I today we're talking about symptoms and some of the symptoms that we see that most folks don't realize are associated with overall just poor health, gut health, and might be contributing or associated with weight gain.
Yeah, I didn't realize how vast the symptoms were going to be. So when I said we get through 2 today, I lied. But we're going to deal with symptoms, and we're going to finish that off today. One of the things that keeps coming up with weight gain is stress, irritability, anxiety, panic attacks, poor sleep, and poor short-term memory. All of which are not things you have to put up with, right? They are reversible.
Sure, absolutely.
So, talk about an example. I'm sure you have somebody in mind that they've had this issue, and you can see how they've changed over the course of 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks. The best part for you has to be like you're a mechanic. That car's not running right, but you can fix it, and you can see that thing as it's going from kind of puttering down the road to motoring down the road, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, give an example of somebody, like you talked about Mike. I mean, that's a good example, but somebody that you saw that where they couldn't think straight, they were bloated all the time, they didn't want to eat, and now they're success.
Yeah, a couple. Mike's a great one, but there's a young girl named Nicole. She's an architect. And Nicole had come to us she was in a motor vehicle accident and had some neck and upper back pain. That was the initial thing that brought her into us. And as we got her well with that, then she had mentioned all of this short-term memory loss she was experiencing. Her anxiety and panic attacks were significant and severe. And she was on, I want to say 3 to 4 different medicines. And it was so severe at this point, it was impacting her work. And she's an architect that works on really, really big structures.
These detailed.
Strip malls and things like this in other states. And she's with a high-level firm. So we looked at her and said, hey, listen, there's a way to deal with this. She was, about 50 pounds overweight as well. And she's not very old. I want to say late 20s, early 30s. Somewhere in there, she's not very old at all. So I said, listen, there's ways to deal with this. Let's first just let's find out what's going on in detail, and let's do what's called a micronutrient panel. And this is a blood test that most family doctors or most hospitals, quite frankly, don't even do. And let's find out what small nutrients we might be missing here. Let's clean up gut health, and whatever nutrients we're missing, let's focus on getting those things. And a lot of folks don't realize that a lot of the nutrients they're missing actually affect their nervous system significantly. And for her, it was exactly that. She was missing almost 11 micronutrients, and all of these, not just kind of borderline, she was deficient in a lot of these things. So subclinically, I mean, she was way, way deficient in all of these micronutrients, and it was just a matter of getting them back, cleaning up her gut health and teaching her how to eat correctly to get these things. And now she looks great. I just saw her 2 weeks ago. She's down almost 35 pounds. Her mental clarity is better. Fatigue is better. Her focus is better. Sleep is markedly improved, and her life's changed. Her neck pain's gone too, which is great.
But it's not just about the outside, right? I mean, she's got to feel better. I mean, losing weight is one thing.
Sure.
But your mental health, when you're getting those nutrients you need, it's got to bring you back up. Like, one of the things we always talk about in Columbus is always, for the price of a cup of coffee a day, you can fix your health.
Absolutely.
But people would rather go through a drive-through because it's faster.
Sure.
Right? I don't have to get my blood drawn. I don't have to know what's wrong with me. And I'll just putter through the day.
It's a great statement. I mean, I love that. For the cost of a cup of coffee a day, you could change your health. And I had that same conversation with a young lady the other day. She's diabetic and she's type 2, and she's spending over $300 a month on her diabetes medicines. And I looked at her and I said, do you realize for less than half of what you're spending on your diabetes medicines, in about 5 weeks, I can get you off of those things. And lo and behold, here we go. We're getting ready to start. So yeah, it's great.
I don't want to bash the medical world, but it seems to be there's more of the treat the symptomatology to just get by versus a person has to actually put in work, right? You have to change your lifestyle, the way you eat, the way you, not so much you have to change your day to day, but you have to change what you're putting in, right?
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of frustration in the medical world in general. And I think that you see it in the providers in that a lot of them are going, we aren't preventing disease here. We are managing disease. Right. Once disease develops, we aren't preventing it. We're waiting for it to develop, and then we're treating it and managing it with medicines. We aren't correcting any diseases, and we aren't making a healthier population. The World Health Organization has shown us that statistically, that we aren't winning the battle, and we can actually change the health of our country just by really focusing on nutrition.
And you're not going to get that without education, right? I mean, that is why we're doing this. I mean, we're doing this to educate people. We want them to come into the clinic, obviously, but it's to tell them, here's what's missing, right?
Yeah.
If you can set somebody up on a path of success, that's where you win, right?
Right. And what we don't want to do is just continue to doom the majority of the population to a life of drugs and surgery, and just let them know there are alternatives out there. There are alternatives to this, and there are other ways to improve your health. If you are frustrated, if you are seeing somebody and you're getting medicines and you just don't feel well, there are alternatives. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I'd love to introduce people to Jim and just show them what he looked like, literally a week ago, walking in on a walker, barely able to stand up. We had to have 2 therapists hold him up by the belt loop just to get him into the exam room, and now he wants to get rid of his walker. So there are ways to get rid of these things. Age does not matter. Where you are with your health doesn't matter. There are solutions.
And the cost is also not an issue because, like you said, $300 for diabetes medications, you're trying to get her off of that, which goes back into her pocket.
Sure.
But you and I talked months ago about we were looking for an 800 number. Mm-hmm. And I happened to see this 800 number that was big in California where it was plastic surgery. Mm-hmm. And it was called 1-800-GET-THIN.
Yeah.
It wasn't get thin by doing the work or getting educated. It was plastic surgery.
Yeah.
It was the
gastric sleeve.
The sleeve.
Yeah.
And I thought that you got thin, but you paid $20,000 to do it. But you didn't correct your habits.
Well, and it doesn't mean their health changed. And we see this all the time. We see folks that have come in after gastric bypass or the gastric sleeve and they're back in trouble. They lost some weight initially, but it went right back up. And the reason being is they didn't learn how to change their health. And nobody really taught them how to change their nutritional habits. And we see them headed right back in the same direction they were before, but now we have some limitations. And if you're considering gastric bypass, I would say get in to see us before you consider this, because once a portion of that stomach is removed, that is permanent and we can never go back. And there are some limitations that do occur with that in the way that we can absorb certain things and in the way the GI system works.
It never works to just tie things together instead of just do it, educate yourself, right?
Well,
I mean, if you're going to cut into yourself, you're changing your structure of your body.
And we're Americans. Americans love instant gratification.
Right.
We want
the drive-through culture.
That's right. We want it fixed, and we want it fixed now. We want it our way. It's the kind of Burger King analogy. Yeah. Everybody, we want to have it our way, which is fast. And, when it comes to these things, if anybody's promoting, hey, fast, easy, simple, overnight success, it probably isn't going to be very healthy. But most folks with a month to 6 months of some work are going to see the results that they're looking for.
But they're also going to learn a long-term approach. This
Absolutely.
Isn't just, I want to get ready for my high school reunion. This is your lifestyle moving forward.
Sure.
You're going to be healthier, more alert. You're going to cut down on your stress because you can handle that part. But you have to learn how to do it properly, and that's what you're doing.
That's right. We want to literally just change this person's health for the long term. Now, we have some folks. We've got a great testimonial up on our Facebook page. This young lady came in, and she gave us time. She had 3 months to get ready for a cruise next week. And she came in with enough time to say, hey, listen, I need to lose 40 pounds to get ready for this cruise. And her words, if I don't lose this 40 pounds, I'm not going.
So the pressure's on you.
The pressure's on us. And she was going to bag it. She was going to get rid of this cruise. And lo and behold, she's ready to go. She gave us a great video testimonial. It's up on the Facebook page. If you want to check it out, you can find us at Advanced Spine Joint and Wellness on Facebook. Great testimonial up there.
You got to love that challenge, though.
It's
for
fun.
you.
It's a lot of fun. And you know what? She came in really, really focused on just wanting to lose weight for the trip. But what she found was a whole lot more. And a lifestyle change that hopefully she'll continue to carry on for the remainder of her years. So,
in our last minute before we wrap, again, can you just tell people symptoms? Break it down very simply.
Sure.
We are not trying to mask it. We're trying to treat it.
Correct. We want to find out, why is that check engine light on? What symptoms are there, and where are they coming from? And we address the where and why, and the symptom's going to go away for good.
Okay, that's going to wrap it for this show, but we are going to do hormones. I promise we are going to do hormones the very next show. So if you're on Facebook, you can see it next. If not, we'll see you next week.
Sounds great.
You've been listening to a Morris Media production.